Hello students, let's continue our chapter 5 of English, Behave, the snake and the mirror. We are in the paragraph number 6 on page 57. I got up, paced up and down the room. Then another lovely thought struck me. I would marry. I would get married to a woman doctor who had plenty of money and a good medical practice. She had to be fat for a valid reason. If I made some silly mistake and needed to run away, she should be able to run after me and catch me. With such thoughts in my mind, I resumed my seat in the chair in front of the table. There were no more sounds from above. Suddenly there came a dull thud. If a rubber tube had fallen to, turn the page student, had fallen to the ground. Surely, nothing to worry about. Even so, I thought I would turn around and take a look. No sooner had I turned than a fat snake wriggled over the back of the chair and landed on my shoulder. The snake's landing on me and my turning were simultaneous. So students, the snake's landing on me, that is what the author is sitting there, and the turning were simultaneous. What is the meaning of simultaneous? It happened at once, at the same time. So now let's turn the page, come to the page 57. We saw before also a homeopath, a doctor. He is thinking about getting married, and so once again he says, I had another thought. And what was that thought? I would get married to a woman doctor who had plenty of money and a good practice. What practice? Medical practice. He was a doctor. He also wanted a wife who could be a doctor. She had to be fat for a valid reason, and he wanted his wife to be fat. What was the reason, student? And see, the reason that he says, if I made some silly mistake and she needed to run away, she should not be able to run after me and catch me. So that was the valid reason. See students, how it is. He makes a type of humor over here. So if she is fat, she may not be able to run as fast as I could. With such thoughts in my mind, I resumed my seat in the chair in front of the table. So the chair was kept in front of the table. He goes back and sits there. There were no more sounds from the above. Okay. The noise of the rat had stopped. Suddenly there came a dull thud. Thud also is a noise, as if a rubber tube had fallen to the ground. So student, the noise was like a rubber tube falling on the ground. And what happens? Surely nothing to worry. There was nothing to worry about. Even so, I thought I would turn around and take a look. He wanted to take a look, but he said nothing will happen. No sooner had I turned than a fat snake wriggled over the back of the chair and landed on my shoulder. So student, what was that tube-like noise? The thud, that the noise which I had heard was a snake falling on him. And where did it fall? It landed on his shoulder. The snake's landing on me and my turning were simultaneous. These both the things happened at the same time. The moment the snake fell on him and he looked behind to see what was happening, it was a snake. Let's come to the paragraph number 7. I didn't jump. I didn't tremble. I didn't cry out. There was no time to do any such thing. The snake slithered along my shoulder and coiled around my left arm above the elbow. The hood was spread out and its head was hardly 3 or 4 inches from my face. So look at this students, look at this, what is said, read properly, pay attention. I didn't jump, I didn't tremble. He did not get so much scared that he would shiver, he did not tremble. But then what happened? He did not even cry. There was no time to do any such thing. There wasn't no time to cry or to jump and all, because already the snake was on his shoulder. The snake slithered along my shoulder and coiled around my left arm above the elbow. So students, it is getting coiled. What is the meaning of getting coiled? It is entangling around him. And what happened? What happened students? Look there. After getting coil, after getting wrapped over his shoulder, what does the snake do? He has spread out his hood. He has spread out his hood. Look over here, the hood. Okay? And students, then what happens? After that, the hair was hardly 3 to 4 inches from my face. Just there was 3 to 4 inches distance. It would not be correct to say merely that I sat there holding my breath. So he sits there holding his breath. He is so scared. Let's see what happens. I was turned to stone, but my mind was very active. The door opened into darkness. The room was surrounded by darkness. In the light of the lamp, I sat there like a stone, image in the flesh. So see student, he says, though he wasn't scared, but he had become like a stone, so stiff. He did not even move. He didn't make any movement. And how is the room? He was sitting there holding his breath. I was turned to stone, but my mind was very active. Though he was like a stone sitting over there, did not move, he was very active, mind was very active. The door opened into darkness. The room was surrounded by darkness. There was total darkness in the room. In the light of the lamp, I sat there like a stone image in the flesh. So what is he saying? How is he describing himself? Like a stone in the flesh. I felt then the great presence of the Creator, this world and this universe. So what is he saying? I felt the great presence of the Creator of this world. Who is the Creator, student? God the Almighty Father. And this universe, whole universe, God was there. There in whom? In the form of a snake. Suppose I said something and he did not like it. I tried in my imagination to write in bright letters outside my little heart the words, "Oh God." So student, what he says? Suppose I say something and if he doesn't like it, then he tried to think in his imagination. He thought, I write it in my heart. What will I write? Oh God. Then there was some pain in my left arm. It was as if a thick leaden rod, a rod made of molten fire, was slowly but powerfully crushing my arm. The arm was beginning to be drained of all strength. What could I do? So student, naturally such a big snake, if it has coiled around his shoulder, if it has wrapped around his shoulder, he will feel that heavy weight. And so what he started getting pain in his left arm. And what was the pain like? It was like a crushing. It was, the pain was so much that it was like a thick leaden rod. Or he says, no, as if made of molten fire. Slowly but powerfully crushing his arm. Slowly but powerfully crushing his arm. See, his arm was beginning to be drained of all strength. He was finding strengthless. He was finding all of a sudden so weak. There was no energy left in his arm. Then, at my slightest movement, the snake would strike me. If he makes little also movement, the snake would strike him. Death lurked 4 inches away. He could see his death in front of him, just 4 inches away. Why students 4 inches away? We saw earlier that there was only 3 to 4 inches. The snake was just 3 to 4 inches from his face. Suppose it struck. What was the medicine I had to take? Suppose if it struck me, suppose it strikes, what could he take the medicine, no? Then there were no medicines in the room. I was but a poor, foolish and stupid doctor. So what he says? I had no medicine. I was a doctor, but I had no medicine in my room. What? I was a poor, foolish and stupid doctor. I forgot my danger and smiled feebly at myself. So he smiled feebly, very weak smile he gave at himself, poor smile. It seemed as if God appreciated that smile, which was the true smile, very scary smile. God liked it. The snake turned its head. It looked into the mirror and saw its reflection. So student, why do you say that the snake looked in the mirror? Because the author was sitting in front of the mirror, admiring himself, how handsome he looked. And student, what time it is? It is a night time after his dinner. What is the snake looking at? Snake is looking at its own reflection. I do not claim that it was the first snake that had ever looked into a mirror. I do not claim that it was the first snake that had ever looked into a mirror. But it was certain that the snake was looking into the mirror. He says, for sure and certain that the snake was looking into the mirror. How did it look like? Was it admiring its own beauty? Was the snake admiring its own beauty? Was it trying to make, student, come to the next page. Was it trying to make an important decision about growing a mustache or using eyeshadow and mascara or wearing a vermilion spot on its forehead? So what is he saying? Like the author was sitting there and was thinking that he will grow the mustache should be thin and he should look handsome. He also makes a part on his head. So he's saying, was the snake also making a decision of growing a mustache or using eyeshadow and mascara, wearing a vermilion spot? What is that vermilion spot? You put it in the temple and all. When you go, you have on your forehead. So he's saying, is he thinking of putting something like that? I did not know anything for certain. What snake was, what sex was this snake? What was it, male or female? So he says, I do not know what sex, what gender it belonged to, whether it was a male or a female. Okay, so he's now trying to find out whether it was a female snake or a male snake. I will never know, for the snake unwound itself from my arm and slowly slithered into my lap. So from the arm, where does it go now? Slowly he moves to the lap of the author. From there it crept onto the table and moved towards the mirror. From there it crept, it went, it slipped. And where did it go? It went into the table towards the mirror. Perhaps it wanted to enjoy its reflection at closer quarters. So maybe it wanted to go still closer in the mirror and look how did it, and see how himself, how does it look. I was no mere image cut in granite. I was suddenly a man of flesh and blood. Then he remembered that he was a man of flesh and blood. Still, holding my breath, I got up from the chair. Holding my breath, I got up from the chair. I quietly went out through the door into the veranda. Quietly, where does he go? He goes to the veranda. From there, I leaped into the air and ran for all I was worth. So he says, I just ran. I remember, now the snake is gone near the mirror, let me run away. Till then, I was like motionless, like a stone. I was standing over there. Poof, over here. Poof. Each of us heaved a sigh of relief. Somebody asked, Doctor, is your wife very fat? So somebody asked him, Doctor, is your wife very fat? Do you have a wife now? No, the doctor said, God willed otherwise. My life companion is a thin, reedy person with the gift of a splinter. Someone else asked the doctor, when you ran, did the snake follow you? So others also had the doubts. Doctor, first of all, they asked, doctor wanted to marry a girl who would be fat. But his wife is not fat. She is very thin. A gift of a sprinter. And then someone else asked, doctor, when you ran, did the snake follow you? Was the snake following you? The doctor replied, I ran and ran till I reached a friend's house. Immediately, I smeared oil all over myself and took a bath. See, naturally anybody will feel either dirty or repugnance as a creature falls on you. Okay, some of you may enjoy, but what did he do first? He went and have bath. What did he do? He put all over that oil and he took a bath. I changed into fresh clothes. He wore nice clean clothes. The next morning at about 8:30, I took my friend and one or two other others to my room to move my things from there. He decides to move from that room. But we found we had little to carry. Naturally, he had no other things, so very little. We have seen in the beginning, what did he possess? Some thief had removed most of my things. The room had been cleaned out. But not really. The thief had left behind one thing as a final insult. So what he says, somebody after my coming, you know that night he moved from there because of the snake. But somebody, a robber, entered into the house and tried to clear his house. He had taken away his things. But what does the author also says? But not that everything he took as an insult, he left something behind. Let's see now, what is it? Okay, so what was that? I asked, what was that? And so the doctor said, my waist, the dirty one. The fellow had such a sense of cleanliness. The rascal could have taken it and used it after washing it with soap and water. So what he says, his waist, okay, his inner garments maybe, that's something he left behind. See, the fellow had the sense of cleanliness. He knew that cannot be worn. And that is not hygienic. Then, also he says that he could have washed it with soap and water, but he doesn't do, and he should not do also. Did you see the snake the next day, doctor? Somebody else is asking, doctor, did you see the snake next day? The doctor laughed. I have never seen it since. It was a snake which was taken with its own beauty. So, it was a snake which was taken away by its own beauty. It had its own beauty. It went to see itself in the mirror and went out of the room or wherever it has gone, but it is no more there. Students, written by whom? Vaikom Muhammad Bashir, translated from the Malayalam by V. Abdullah. It's a translated one. Okay, so students, here we are finishing this chapter. I'll be sending you the meanings and the question answers, short question answers. Remaining question answers is you have to complete in your fair book. You have to write the question answers. You know how you have to be you are supposed to write. I have shown you with the introduction, content, conclusion. Please do complete your homework. I'm stopping this chapter over here. We have finished chapter 5. Have a good day.